you see how much he cares for the people back home because he wants to get back so badly. If a character is transferred to a new world, it's like, oh, it's a new opportunity, a new day. Honestly, the whole thing about getting transferred to the new world doesn't mean anything in the first place. Welcome back to the Friedink Podcast with me, Ren the Governor, author and illustrator of Hunters of Illumis, and founder and creator of Friedink Manga, the host of the Friedink Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the issue of anime's obsession with the loner character trope and how that really affects your writing of a full and complete main character. I wanted to really look and navigate into this character trope because I see a lot of people who are really inspired by shonen and other isekai stories, which usually kind of run on those different kind of characters that really have no friends or family or anything that leads up to the events that follow within the story. One of the main culprits within this trope and many of the different ideas that I see within it is Kirito from Sword Art Online. Now, I love Sword Art Online. I don't really like all the different series that came out for Sword Art Online, but the first season really holds a deep place in my heart. But I can still look at it objectively and say it's not the greatest work of art, but it is something that resonates and something that I like to watch every now and again. Think about it like this. When you start a show, you're essentially meeting a new person, a person you've never talked to, don't know anything about, never met a day in their life. Some of the best ways to get to know somebody would probably be through the people that they know, right? So when we go through the story or we start the story and there's no one to base any information off for this character, anything that drives this character, anything that the character wants to hold on to, what then can we get out of this character? What can we then do with this person who we have no information on and we can gain and grasp nothing on? This then creates a scenario, especially within the more battle shonens or battle-based stories, is that the fights and the events that happen that drive the plot are the things that move the character, which can fall into a very dicey situation where they're really just a blank slate for the story to move rather than being, and I say this a lot on here, wanting characters that fill the story, fill the world, and make something more whole for them and everyone else that they interact with. And so when we have this character who essentially we have nothing to base them off of, no one to really get information through their interactions with them, and now we're just kind of thrown into the brunt of the story, it can feel very flat. The characters can often feel flat, and this happens a lot with the isekais. The isekai characters are often very flat characters, very bland characters, or even, and this kind of plays into each other a lot of the time with isekai harems. Harems have characters who end up being loners, who end up just getting all these women, or you go in the aspect of characters who get all these friends, whatever it is. But those friends are only developed through the events that happen within the story. So those characters who come in don't add anything new to the character that we wouldn't have already known if that character didn't meet those people. They could have been people that he never became friends with. He could have just saved them, helped them, had minor interactions with them, and then went about his day. We could have learned the same about the character in that way. If the character starts off as a loner already and there's no one who we know historically has been with him and known him beforehand, I think that's so crucial for characters when they're first displayed on screen and as we see them grow, because we see people who know this character, who've known them, and either they see them change or become elated at the fact that they stuck their ground to who they were the whole time and got to walk through them with their journey. So you really take on the emotional response of whoever has been with that character through them. And because we can join the character on their journey, but in terms of writing, the other characters would have been there much longer. So we get just a little bit extra for seeing the character accomplish their goals or whatever happens at the end of the story, whether they change or whether they stay the same, through the eyes of the other characters who are their friends before the movie or the show even began. And so this goes back to Kirito, how he is this loner. He never really talked to anybody. He was a beta tester of the game. Everyone kind of wrote him off. And I guess in a way we get, that he has, I guess, some kind of valiant characteristics. But since he's such a blank slate, that creates a huge room for some kind of self-insert where the audience can really just, or the writer themselves, just kind of put themselves into that character rather than really seeing a full person that like, oh, this isn't me, but I really appreciate who this person is. Because even if you connect with a character and there's certain struggles that you relate to, I feel like when the character comes off as a very separate person, you won't self-insert yourself onto them, but you will connect with them. And I think those are two very different things. The self-insert is placing yourself within the story as if you were that character and only really resonating with that character because you desire whatever that character was capable of doing. I guess some kind of power fantasy, where it's just like you dreamed of beating up your bully or something like that, and you were just and that just kind of gets you going in a certain way. It lets off all those dopamines or whatever. But the aspect of connecting with an actual character is being able to actually see somebody else, not making it about yourself, but seeing somebody else do something and being inspired by that thing, recognizing that you don't have to be your only inspiration or you have to be the only one that has to be in it alone, but it's a character that you're like, oh, since somebody wrote this, especially since the writer could write something like this, that means the writer can understand there's somebody else out there that understands you and what you're going through. And I think that creates a huge difference of how the audience may respond to a character and what kind of fan base you're going to get out of that character. What kind of people will be desiring your story and what kind of conversation you'll gain out of that story. You get a lot of the time these characters who are more of the loners and become this really cool, super awesome character. It's really just in the way people talk today, the aura characters, the aura farmers, the characters where you're really just wanting to see, oh, this guy is so strong, this guy's going to do this, this guy's going to do that, and never really the deeper things that you may have wanted to place within the story about maybe the aspects of the loneliness and how that can affect people, how that affected the character, how that affects other characters in the story. And there's definitely stories that talk about loneliness and all those kind of things that really are done well, and those people can be seen as separate characters, but it really has to be done in a very particular and careful way, which even, like I said, still requires the character to have fleshed out interactive moments with people to help show what that loneliness means. Another thing with the loneliness character trope, the lonely character going into the isekai genre, it really takes away a lot of the stakes at hand of characters that want to go back home. I saw that recently on threads, people talking about characters that actually want to go back home when they're transported to a new world rather than trying to just embrace this new life that they happen to have and really just having more fun there than they actually are at home, because there's no one waiting for them there. There's no one waiting for them to go back home. If a kid gets transported and his parents are back in his house, the real struggle would be him trying to get back home. Because why? Because he has love there. He has a family there that you could see through. Even if the characters that he knows aren't there, you see how much he cares for the people back home because he wants to get back so badly. If a character gets transferred to a new world, it's like, oh, it's a new opportunity, a new day. Honestly, the whole thing about getting transferred to the new world doesn't mean anything in the first place. It could have just started with the character in that world and just being by themselves. It makes it way more interesting. It's just extra steps of just a regular fantasy story, which really just gives the people who, I guess, feel lonely this hope of finding a new opportunity. But I don't think I want to get hit by a truck to do so. One of the stories I think about when it comes to a character who isn't lonely and how well that's worked through is Spider-Man. Honestly, take anyone, any movie, show, whatever. Spider-Man's biggest thing is about him keeping his secret identity while still trying to have a regular teenage life. That creates this tension. Who's going, like the people that the villains may go after. He has to protect his identity for that reason. He has to protect his identity just so that other people aren't trying to get to know him and invading his privacy and all these kind of things. And he also just desires to love the people around him and care for those people. But it creates a constant struggle trying to be with his friends, trying to hang out with his friends, trying to go on dates, trying to be a regular high schooler while going out and saving the world with these massive heroes. And I think that when we go about as writers just being like, oh, my character, he's downtrodden, he lost his grandfather, he lost his grandmother, he lost his sister, we've removed the very people who can give us a little more information and a little more stakes to everything that's happening to the character, because he has something to, even if it's not to fight for, it's just somebody to be home with. And that I try in my own writing to really create characters that have homes somewhere, because everybody's a person. Everybody has a home. Everybody has something that they link to. In reality, we don't go to other worlds where we're no longer connected to everything. Even if we are alone in this world, we have to deal with society. People have to deal with the struggles of the world. They can never disconnect from that. And I think when you write isekai or you write these action heroes, these action characters, these shonen based characters, and all they have are themselves and maybe some memories, or maybe sometimes the characters are, well, oh, they were too young to remember who so and so was. And then it's just, okay, so what do we know about this person? What do we know about this character? And a character doesn't necessarily have to get transported to another world to have this issue of being a loner and lacking certain depth. I look at Naruto, where yes, he went through a lot of things and he grew a lot, and there was a lot of things that may have changed in certain ways. There is there is still an aspect because he didn't have his parents there. For some reason, the third Hokage didn't take care of him that much. And I think it would have been pulled together a lot better if Iruka Sensei was a lot more of a major character as he got older. Sure, you have Jiraiya, who is kind of took that place, but Jiraiya wasn't there the whole time. Iruka Sensei was the one who was there a lot for a very long time, which I think would have been something to really hark on a lot more as the story progressed. But even then, you can run a risk if you really are inspired by Naruto. There is still a risk with the way his character is written. Being that character who just has nobody. Yes, that's kind of the whole thing. But because of that, anything he does, becoming a ninja, going out on missions, all these kind of things, until he really gains a closeness and camaraderie with Sakura, Kakashi, Sasuke, the risk of him dying was minimal. Pretty much, no one would have really, if it was a show that was like a lot grimmer, a lot more dark, and maybe they were willing to kill off the main character, Naruto really would have been an afterthought in the village. There was nothing at stake for him but for himself. And if you don't do that well, that can put you in a really bad spot for keeping the audience really intrigued with the stakes of the story of the fights or whatever's happening. So that's just my thoughts on the loner character trope. What do you guys think? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Or do you not feel anything about them? I would love to hear more of your thoughts about it and continue this conversation more. So put your comments in the comment section below so we can talk more about it. I'm always down to hear what everybody has to say. If you want to follow me on my art journey as I go continuing creating Hunters of Illumis, this first volume is out, the second volume is on the way. You can follow me on my Instagram or any of my other socials in the links below. And if you want to get a copy of the first volume, Hunters of Illumis, you can go in the link in the description below or go to www.friedinkmanga.com to get yourself a copy. Well, that's all I have for today. Just a couple thoughts I had. So I'll catch you on the next video. See y'all. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like my kids mess with like all my books all the time. So honestly, these may be out of order like every single time. So I don't know.